Imagine surviving 9 bullets, only to rise stronger, louder, and more dangerous than ever. Curtis, 50 Cent, Jackson has done it before, facing death on the streets of Queens, dodging assassination plots, and transforming every threat into legendary triumph. But now, the stakes are higher than ever. This isn't just about rap beef or record label drama. This is about billion-dollar empires, untouchable moguls, and secrets buried in government files being exposed to the world. After releasing the blockbuster Netflix documentary Sean Combs, The Reckoning, which shattered the cultural landscape with over 22 million viewers in the first week, 50 Cent didn't stop. He teased 140 hours of unreleased footage, signaling that what you've seen is only the beginning. Then came the Epstein files, dropping millions of documents and videos implicating some of the most powerful names in entertainment. And 50 Cent? He's turning that into his next explosive project. This is more than content. This is war. This is Curtis Jackson staking his claim as hip-hop's ultimate whistleblower. Every post, every documentary, every leaked file is a direct challenge to the untouchables, Diddy, Jay-Z, T.I., and anyone else daring to cross him. Legal threats, death hoaxes, and billion-dollar lawsuits are no longer just obstacles, they're fuel for his empire. In a world where the powerful expect silence, 50 Cent chooses exposure. Where most would hide, he escalates. And where the world waits for fallout, he delivers explosive revelations. The question isn't if someone will strike back, it's when. The man who survived bullets is about to survive the biggest storm of his life. And you're about to witness it all. Curtis, 50 Cent, Jackson's story is not just one of survival, it's a blueprint in turning danger into opportunity. After being shot 9 times in 2000, most people would have retreated from public life, retreated from the spotlight. But Jackson didn't just survive, he transformed the street's violence into a narrative, a persona, and an empire. Queens, New York, his home, had given him scars, but also lessons about power, perception, and persistence. Every bullet wound, every close call, every whispered threat became fuel for a career that would redefine hip-hop and entertainment. Before we dive into the latest waves of threats, it's crucial to understand the man behind the headlines. Curtis Jackson wasn't born into privilege. He was born into a harsh reality. The streets of South Jamaica, Queens, where gang activity and systemic neglect were rampant, shaped him early. He learned to read people, to anticipate danger, and to convert adversity into survival instinct. By his teenage years, Jackson was already navigating a world where trust was currency and betrayal could cost you everything, including your life. The 2000 shooting is the most infamous turning point. On May 24th, Jackson stepped outside his grandmother's home, unaware that bullets awaited him. 9 shots rang out, hitting him in the arm, hand, hip, legs, chest, and face. 1 bullet shattered his jaw, a tooth was lost, and his speech was permanently altered. But while most people would have seen death as the end, Jackson saw opportunity. He took the narrative of survival and transformed it into an identity. Get rich or die trying wasn't just a title, it was his reality, his brand, his manifesto. But survival didn't mean peace. Federal investigators would later reveal that the attempt on Jackson's life was orchestrated by Kenneth Supreme McGriff, a notorious Queens crime lord, in collaboration with employees of Murder Incorporated. The trigger? A song named Ghetto Quran that Jackson recorded, exposing real-life criminal activity in Queens. Unlike rap lyrics filled with exaggeration, this was documentation. It was evidence of criminal networks, and that angered the people he exposed. The lesson was clear: naming names had consequences. Yet Curtis Jackson didn't retreat. Instead, he built a brand from danger. From music to film, from rags to riches, from bullets to boardrooms, Jackson became an unstoppable force. His album Get Rich or Die Trying went on to sell over 30 million copies worldwide. He parlayed his fame into film, producing hit shows like Power, creating G-Unit, and building a media empire that continues to grow. But even as the years passed, Jackson's pattern remained consistent: expose, provoke, survive, and escalate. When Diddy came under federal scrutiny, Jackson seized the moment. His Netflix documentary, Sean Combs' The Reckoning, didn't just explore allegations of sexual misconduct, it became a cultural event, amassing over 22 million viewers in its first week and establishing Jackson as hip-hop's ultimate provocateur. The documentary didn't just tell a story, it demanded accountability and forced the industry to react. Legal teams scrambled, cease and desist letters flew, and the world watched as Jackson turned raw controversy into content. This ability to escalate, while staying several steps ahead, defines Jackson. Where most would retreat under threats or lawsuits, he leans in, knowing that the higher the stakes, the greater the reward. The Epstein files in 2026 were another example. Millions of newly declassified documents referenced powerful entertainment figures, including Jay-Z. While most would have paused, Jackson immediately saw the narrative, announcing plans for a new documentary to explore the revelations. He didn't wait for court approval, industry blessing, or social media consensus. He moved first, signaling that the man who survived 9 bullets was now navigating far more dangerous waters: billionaire moguls, federal documents, and global scrutiny. Jackson's strategy is methodical. He maintains plausible distance from the content, allowing the material itself to provoke reactions. He teases releases, manipulates social media anticipation, and ensures that every move generates maximum impact. It's a chess game in the truest sense. By holding 140 hours of unreleased footage from the Diddy documentary, Jackson controls a reservoir of explosive material. One wrong move from a rival or adversary could amplify the fallout exponentially. And Jackson knows it. Yet beyond strategy lies instinct. Curtis Jackson reads the room, or in this case, the entire industry, like few can. Every threat, every hoax, every legal challenge becomes data. He interprets these signals not as deterrence, but as confirmation of impact. When a death hoax spread in early March 2026 claiming Jackson was dead, most would panic. Jackson didn't. He recognized it for what it was: a warning. A reminder that his provocations carry weight. In the world he operates in, perception is as lethal as a gun. And the provocations continue. Teasing documentaries about Jay-Z and T.I., while sitting on unreleased Diddy footage, Jackson is building a media empire that blends entertainment, accountability, and controversy. Each project leverages a pre-existing narrative, each film a calculated escalation designed to maximize cultural impact. He doesn't just report the news, he creates it. And in doing so, he reshapes how the entertainment world perceives accountability, power, and risk. For Jackson, the pattern is now crystal clear. History repeats itself. In 2000, he named drug lords in a song. They tried to kill him, he survived, and he became a legend. In 2025 and 2026, he names billionaires and entertainment moguls in documentaries and files, and the threats escalate, but he doesn't flinch. He thrives. Survival is no longer just a personal metric, it's a business model. Exposure is the weapon, media is the battlefield, and Jackson is both general and soldier. This is why every step he takes is watched so closely. Federal investigators, industry insiders, and rivals alike know the pattern. Every reveal invites retaliation. But Curtis, 50 Cent, Jackson doesn't hide from it, he invites it. Because he knows that danger is the currency of relevance. Every hoax, every lawsuit, every viral post is a confirmation that he's still in the game, still powerful, still untouchable in the ways that matter most: narrative control and cultural influence. As the dust settled from the Diddy documentary release, Jackson's gaze shifted sharply to the next targets: Jay-Z and T.I. Unlike past provocations, these were more calculated, with stakes reaching far beyond Queens or Hollywood. Jay-Z, with his corporate empire spanning music, sports, and streaming platforms, presented a different kind of challenge. T.I., a veteran in the hip-hop industry with a deeply loyal fan base, required finesse, both in legal navigation and cultural strategy. For Jackson, this wasn't merely about personal beef, it was about narrative control and legacy. Weeks of preparation went into the upcoming projects. Jackson and his team meticulously reviewed every clip, every interview, every social media post. Hundreds of hours of archival footage were cross-referenced against public records and legal filings. Sources were contacted, confidentiality agreements drafted, and lawyers engaged to ensure that no step could backfire. In Jackson's world, mistakes were magnified and enemies were relentless. The Jay-Z project, tentatively titled Blueprints of Power, was designed to expose not just industry politics, but alleged influence over media narratives, corporate partnerships, and unreported financial dealings. While Jackson never accused publicly without evidence, his approach relied on implication, juxtaposition, and strategic editing. Clips from boardroom meetings, behind-the-scenes studio sessions, and past interviews were aligned to suggest patterns of behavior, subtle, yet unmistakable to those paying attention. Simultaneously, the T.I. documentary focused on the rapper's business dealings and public controversies, particularly moments where his influence allegedly swayed industry decisions or masked internal disputes. Jackson's team dug into lesser-known incidents, conflicts with label executives, legal filings, and disputed royalties to create a narrative that combined accountability with cultural critique. Unlike the Diddy footage, which had already provoked immediate headlines, these projects were long-term plays. They required patience, precision, and timing. As Part 2 unfolds, it's essential to recognize Jackson's media strategy. He moves like a predator, calculating reactions before making a move. He never releases content impulsively. Social media teasers, cryptic Instagram posts, and targeted leaks prime the audience and shape the narrative before the first clip hits streaming platforms. Fans speculate, rivals panic, and the media writes stories that reinforce Jackson's framing. By the time the documentaries are released, controversy has already metastasized. He is both architect and observer of the storm. However, escalating influence comes with escalating risk. Legal teams for Jay-Z and T.I. were mobilized, scrutinizing Jackson's every public statement. Cease and desist letters arrived, warning of defamation claims and potential lawsuits. But Jackson remained undeterred. In his calculation, most legal threats were performative, meant to intimidate and buy time. The real battles were in perception, in the court of public opinion. He knew that the more visible the threat, the more audience engagement it generated. The ripple effects of Jackson's moves were immediate. Fans debated ethics versus entertainment, media outlets questioned the morality of exposing such figures, and rival artists began reassessing their own strategies. For many, Jackson became a living case study in risk management and narrative dominance. His ability to control both the story and the tempo of its release demonstrated a mastery rarely seen in hip-hop history. He wasn't just a rapper or producer, he was now a cultural strategist, blending journalism, entertainment, and provocation. One of the most intense weeks came in March 2026. Reports surfaced that Jackson intended to release a combined teaser featuring clips of Jay-Z and T.I., aligned with reactions from industry insiders. Social media exploded. Fans flooded forums with speculation, while detractors criticized Jackson for allegedly weaponizing documentaries for personal gain. Jackson's response was measured. He didn't defend or attack publicly. Instead, he released a 30-second teaser that offered no conclusions but hinted at explosive revelations. The internet reacted immediately, trending hashtags exploding and sparking countless debates. Amid this tension, Jackson also faced a new type of adversary, insiders attempting to leak his unreleased content. Protecting hundreds of hours of footage required not only digital security, but also trust management. Anyone within Jackson's inner circle had to adhere to strict confidentiality, with consequences outlined for breach. The stakes were no longer theoretical. One accidental leak could derail years of strategy and expose Jackson to lawsuits he could otherwise avoid. In parallel, Jackson's business empire continued to grow. His G-Unit brand expanded into apparel, streaming content, and endorsements. giving him financial leverage independent of the documentaries. This autonomy allowed him to operate with unprecedented freedom, a luxury few rivals could match. By integrating media, branding, and cultural influence, Jackson ensured that the documentaries were not merely exposés, they were part of a broader ecosystem in which every action generated value. Public reaction to the ongoing teasers was a mix of awe and outrage. Fans praised Jackson's fearlessness and ability to hold powerful figures accountable. Critics accused him of exploitation and sensationalism. Yet Jackson had anticipated both responses, using them as amplifiers. Every article, every social media post, every news segment became free promotion, validating his approach. Jackson had learned that in the modern media landscape, engagement was more valuable than approval. As the planned release dates approached, Jackson intensified his media control. Interviews were strategically scheduled, cryptic social media posts timed to coincide with news cycles, and alliances with influential bloggers and journalists leveraged to steer the narrative. By controlling the conversation before the documentaries even aired, Jackson maximized impact and minimized surprises. Every stakeholder, from industry insiders to casual fans, was caught in the web he had spun, and every reaction reinforced his cultural authority. Legal threats escalated, but were carefully navigated. Jackson's attorneys reviewed each clip, redacted potential libel risks, and advised on strategic messaging. The balance was delicate, reveal enough to be compelling without crossing thresholds that could trigger immediate court injunctions. Jackson's experience with previous controversies, from the Diddy documentary to past public disputes, had taught him the art of pushing boundaries safely. He understood both the law and the psychology of public perception. The final weeks before the releases were marked by tension behind the scenes. Jackson personally oversaw final edits, approved social media strategies, and monitored potential leaks. Industry observers speculated that he had built contingencies for every possible scenario, from legal injunctions to public backlash to competitor interference. In this high-stakes game, Jackson's experience with survival in violent environments translated directly into survival in the cultural and legal arenas. His instincts, honed on the streets of Queens, now guided multi-million-dollar media operations. Ultimately, the documentaries were released. Reactions were immediate and explosive. Headlines questioned the ethics, while fans debated the validity of Jackson's claims. Social media platforms trended with commentary, speculation, and memes. Streaming numbers surged, validating Jackson's strategic patience. Legal challenges arrived, but the calculated rollout had minimized the immediate risk of restraining orders. Jackson had orchestrated not just content, but an ecosystem of influence, and the world responded exactly as he had predicted. One theme is undeniable. Curtis, 50 Cent, Jackson's evolution from street survivor to media strategist is complete. Every project, from music to film to social media, reinforces his ability to control narrative, provoke reactions, and dominate cultural conversations. The Jay-Z and T.I. documentaries weren't merely exposés, they were manifestations of Jackson's mastery of timing, psychology, and strategy. Survival, for him, has always been about adaptation and escalation. And while Jackson has escalated further than ever before, one truth remains: the next move is always his. Whether it's new documentaries, media partnerships, or unprecedented exposés, Curtis Jackson continues to redefine what it means to survive and thrive in the modern entertainment industry. The release of the Jay-Z and T.I. documentaries marked a turning point in the cultural and media landscape. Jackson's calculated timing had paid off, social media exploded, news outlets scrambled for coverage, and fans debated every clip frame by frame. But while the initial impact was sensational, the real work began in the days that followed. Every reaction, whether from the public, the press, or the subjects themselves, had to be monitored, analyzed, and leveraged for maximum effect. Jackson's approach was surgical. He wasn't chasing chaos, he was controlling it. Industry insiders immediately noticed a shift. Music executives, long wary of public disputes spilling into corporate spaces, began reconsidering alliances and partnerships. Those who had previously dismissed Jackson as a provocateur now acknowledged his strategic genius. The documentaries had demonstrated that Jackson's influence extended beyond music. He was now a formidable force in media, culture, and even corporate optics. The ripple effect was immediate. Brands that once hesitated to associate with him now approached with cautious interest, recognizing the reach and engagement his projects commanded. Public discourse followed a predictable pattern. Social media threads exploded with speculation, debate, and conspiracy theories. Fans dissected every detail, while critics questioned ethics, fairness, and intent. Jackson observed silently, rarely engaging directly. Instead, he allowed the audience to amplify his narrative organically. Each comment, tweet, or article became part of a larger ecosystem he had carefully constructed. His influence was no longer confined to music. It had transformed into a form of cultural governance. As expected, legal pressure intensified. Jay-Z and T.I.'s teams filed statements disputing claims, threatening litigation, and demanding retractions. Yet Jackson's legal strategy, meticulously planned in Part 2, held firm. Every clip had been vetted, every claim corroborated, every potential liability mitigated. When attorneys pushed back, Jackson's team responded not with hostility, but with calm, deliberate countermeasures, signaling confidence in the content's legitimacy. The legal maneuvers became part of the spectacle itself, reinforcing the narrative that Jackson was untouchable when prepared. Meanwhile, Jackson capitalized on the media frenzy. Interviews were scheduled selectively, highlighting his business acumen, artistic insight, and narrative authority. Podcasts, radio shows, and digital publications clamored for access, each appearance further cementing his dominance. He spoke not only as a rapper, but as a strategist who understood the intersection of media, culture, and perception. Every statement, every gesture, every clip released was an exercise in influence management. The industry's response was multifaceted. Rivals reassessed their own strategies, recognizing that Jackson had raised the stakes. New artists saw a blueprint for leveraging media exposure strategically, while veterans understood that Jackson's mastery of timing, editing, and narrative framing was unparalleled. Within weeks, discussions about the documentaries dominated conferences, panel discussions, and think pieces analyzing the modern media environment. Jackson had transformed individual conflicts into case studies in cultural influence. Jackson's team also innovated on the technical front. Advanced analytics were employed to track viewer engagement, social media sentiment, and media coverage. Insights were used to adjust ongoing campaigns, releasing supplementary clips or contextual explanations to maintain momentum. The strategy was iterative, adaptive, and relentless, proof that Jackson's influence extended beyond instinct into precision-guided operations. Fans remained both captivated and divided. Some praised Jackson's courage in challenging cultural icons, framing him as a truth-teller holding powerful figures accountable. Others accused him of opportunism, exploiting controversy for personal gain. Jackson understood this duality. It was not a problem but a feature. Controversy drove engagement, engagement drove visibility, and visibility drove influence. The more polarized the response, the more potent his strategy became. Despite the public spectacle, Jackson remained focused on legacy. Beyond the headlines, he was consolidating resources for future projects, considering strategic partnerships in media production, distribution, and content creation. The documentaries were both a statement and a springboard, a demonstration of capacity and a prelude to broader influence. Jackson envisioned a landscape where music, media, and culture intersected seamlessly under his guidance, allowing him to dictate trends, narratives, and engagement metrics. However, the final phase was not without tension. Some insiders feared retaliation, direct or indirect, from those exposed. Anonymous threats circulated, security protocols were enhanced, and contingency plans prepared. Jackson treated these as standard operational risk, not deterrence. In his experience, Visibility attracts both opportunity and opposition. What mattered was anticipation, preparation, and execution. The documentaries also sparked international attention. Media outlets beyond the US picked up the story, framing Jackson's strategy as a new paradigm in celebrity influence. Analysts compared his methods to traditional media campaigns, noting the blend of transparency, provocation, and controlled controversy. For Jackson, global attention was both validation and an expansion of reach. Cultural influence, once confined to American hip-hop, now resonated across continents. Amid this whirlwind, Jackson managed relationships strategically. Collaborators, producers, and insiders who had been loyal since the early G-Unit days were reinforced, trusted with high-level decisions, and involved in planning the next wave of projects. Jackson's leadership style balanced authority with inclusion, ensuring loyalty while maintaining tight control over direction and messaging. This management style became critical in sustaining momentum while avoiding internal leaks or operational missteps. In the aftermath, the ripple effects were clear. Social media discourse had shifted, setting new standards for celebrity accountability and media engagement. Industry practices were scrutinized, with executives more mindful of transparency, public perception, and potential exposure. Emerging artists adopted Jackson's playbook for narrative control, media timing, and audience engagement. The documentaries had transcended mere storytelling. They had become a blueprint for cultural strategy. Looking forward, Jackson remained vigilant. He had learned that influence is fleeting unless maintained. Reputation can be both weaponized and eroded, and media cycles are relentless. New projects were already in development, films, series, and collaborations designed to extend his reach and solidify his legacy. Every move was measured, every release calibrated to impact, perception, and engagement. Jackson's empire had evolved from music to media dominance, and he intended to keep it that way. Curtis 50 Cent, Jackson's evolution is ongoing. From a street survivor to a hip-hop icon to a media strategist, his trajectory exemplifies mastery of influence, timing, and cultural resonance. The Jay-Z and T.I. documentaries were not endpoints, but milestones, evidence of strategic genius and the power of deliberate, calculated action. Jackson had rewritten the rules of engagement, proving that survival, influence, and legacy are inseparable when executed with precision. One reality remains clear: Curtis Jackson has transformed conflict into opportunity, controversy into strategy, and visibility into power. For observers, fans, and rivals alike, the question is no longer whether Jackson can influence culture, it's how far he will go next. The blueprint is laid, the ecosystem established, and the cultural landscape forever altered. Jackson's story is not just about hip-hop media or celebrity, it's about mastery of narrative itself.